Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah. Oh well. So much for the no photography rule. Okay. Good evening, everybody. Okay. Hiya. Okay, as Charlie said, this is the second time I've ever done this. I did it in Liverpool at the Everyman Theatre, and it was good fun. I enjoyed doing it. Good place to start off, my hometown. And quiet at the back, please. Okay. And so I'm just going to read some poems and talk a little bit about them. I originally started, as you know, probably, songwriting. And why I started that, one of the reasons I think I started that was I was at school and I wrote a poem for the school magazine that I thought was very deep and meaningful. And it was rejected. So they're right, I'll show you. So that bit of my career you know about probably, but what happened as far as poetry was concerned was that I had a very good friend of mine called Ivan Vaughan, and he actually got Parkinson's disease in his early 30s, and he was our friendship started when at school I heard that he was born on exactly the same day as I was in Liverpool. So obviously our friendship started, we had plenty to talk about. And later on, he took me to a village fete in Woolton and introduced me to his friend, John Lennon. So obviously Ive was a very pivotal person in my life, and I loved him dearly. He used to play in our skiffle group that we had. And I used to play a thing called a T-chest bass. For any of you who don't know what that is, it's these things that the tea used to arrive in England from India and places like that. And once you'd finished the tea, you got this empty case, and people will attach a broom handle on the top of it and a piece of string, and they're used as an instrument. So Ive was the bass player in the skiffle group. You didn't need to be too musical, but you just had to have a lot of passion, and Ive had that. He went on to be a classic scholar at Cambridge, and as I say, he got Parkinson's, died very young, and the tragedy was he knew exactly what was going on. He was very well read, so he could understand exactly what was going on with him, but he was mad to the end. He had a little rhyme we used to say, Cranlock Navel, Cranlock Pie. This kind of thing he just come out with, you see. This is why I love the boy. So that's a brief explanation to the poem. It's called Ivan. Two doors open on the 18th of June. Two babies born on the same day in Liverpool. One was Ivan, the other me. We met in adolescence and did the deeds they dared us do. Jive with Ive, the ace on the bass. He introduced to me at Woolton Fete a pal or two. And so we did. A classic scholar he, a rocking roller me. As firm as friends could be. Cranlock navel, Cranlock pie. A tear is rolling down my eye. On the 16th of August, 1993, one door closed. Bye-bye, Ivy. All right, that's all. Thank you. Sticking with the Liverpool theme, in my early days, you'd see all sorts of sights, probably like New York here. You'd see all sorts of things as you're growing up that stick in your mind. And the next poem I'm going to read is about those early days. Kind of thing you'd see with people over in England. We call them nutters, crazy people you just see everywhere. And I was always fascinated by these people. I remember sitting upstairs. So I refer to some of these things in the poem. There was this bloke on a bus, and he was just sitting there, a crowded top deck of a bus, and he's just sitting in an empty seat next to him, and he was in front of me. And he was just repeating comedians' names, not talking to anyone. And he'd just sort of sit there, he'd just go, Charlie Chaplin. And everyone would try and keep a straight face, you know, oh my God. There you go. Jimmy Durante. So this went on. These kind of guys were rife where I came from. Kind of thing. I'd take my bus from a place called the Pier Head, which was down by the river. I mainly went down there to get it because I could make sure I had a good seat on the bus. Otherwise, when it reached the school, it was packed. So I used to go down there, and it was like the speaker's corner. There would be the people arguing about religion. This kind of thing stuck with me, and that's in the poem. Memories like my mother was a midwife, so our house was always being built. She was always being moved out to the new territory, like pioneers. I remember this dog called Prince with one eye. Anyway, all these memories are in the poem. It's called In Liverpool. I spent my early life in Liverpool, something I'm not likely to forget. People blend with places, faces that I know but never met. Upstairs on a bus behind a man, talking to himself, or so it seemed, repeating names of old comedians and laughing at them. Down the pier head where the preachers meet, each of them his own imagined crowd, giving us his version of the book that God had written. In a house before they built the road, raising jam jars for a worthy cause, Prince, the dog, with one eye to his name, wants to follow. By the sports field of the Institute lives Soft Sid, the harmless village fool, greeting children who pass the other side, saying, "Hello, children." Listening to the bin man holding court, promising to buy a brand new bike, king of little children for a day. He gives them money. Walking with the boys of Dungeon Lane, aimlessly towards a muddy shore, telling tales about the Chinese farm and getting captured. I spent my early days in Liverpool, something I'm not likely to forget. People blend with places and the faces that I know but never met in Liverpool. Thank you. Thanks. This next poem is also about my early life in Liverpool. My mother and father used to buy us dinner tickets, and you got 5, one for each day of the week, and the working week, the school week. And each one bought you a dinner. So she would always check in case there was one left over or for some reason I'd missed, so she could use that for the next week. So she would always look in the breast pocket of my school shirt. And one day she found this drawing. I used to be quite good at drawing these nude ladies. You know, slightly perverted, but only slightly. And it was a boys' school I went to, and all the guys in the class used to love these because when the paper was folded, it was just a clothed lady. But when you open the paper, she jumped in. And that was okay for the guys in class, but I say my mom found this drawing while she was looking for the dinner tickets one day. And there was 3 days of shame. Well, I denied it, of course. Me? No, it must have been Kenny Halpin. It's typical of his drawing. But, I eventually had to admit it. My dad was brought in on the case. And I had to admit the whole thing. And I cried. But the way I've done the poem, I thought of this poem while I was out in the woods, working in the woods, which was one of my hobbies. So it's intercut with scenes from the woods. It's called Dinner Tickets. My mother always looked for dinner tickets in the breast pocket of my grey school shirt. Dried mud falls from my work boots. Zigzag sculptures leave a trail as I head for the woods. She found a folded drawing of a naked woman. My father asked me about it. Chainsaw makes easy work of young birch blocking my path. For days I denied all knowledge of the shocking work of art. Resting on a fallen log, I wiped the sweat from my brow. Admitting I made the drawing, I wept. That's it. I'll try and do a sort of kind of line at the end of it. I wept. I'll just leave the rest of you, okay? No. Next time. You better be quick with this one. This is really short, okay? With this poem, this is a silly thing I came up with, but I was imagining if Tchaikovsky had lived in Liverpool, and I was imagining that he'd kind of lived down our street, and that one of the guys down the street was talking about him. I've got to do this in a Liverpool accent. This is an imaginary tale that a neighbor of mine might tell. I knew Tchaikovsky. He lived around our way. He was dead good at music, they used to say. I called him Chaiko the Psycho. Okay, this next poem is... What was funny about that? I give in. This could be the last time I do this, you know. All right. This next poem. This happened one early morning when I couldn't sleep, and I had a stream of consciousness going through my head, words just teeming through. So I thought, I better get up. It was like about 5 in the morning or something. I thought, I better get up and just write this down. So it became the next poem. It's about reaching for too much. It's called Chasing the Cherry. Fragile fragments clattering down the lavish marble staircase, tinkling smithereens, smashing, grabbing at china stars, bursting in clusters, scattering east-side cats, credit cards dropping from rain clouds, pour down on the well-polished floor, tortoiseshell hair combs and black tape cassettes rattle the cages of knife-wielding grand dames, and say, are you chasing the cherry? The merry-go-round of the roses? If so, you must know that the downside is to sink like a ferry. Ascending the slope in herringbone fashion, holding on chromium steel, lifting the barbells with candlestick motion, sidestepping hot wax and wheel, flying with lizards all blown in a gust through staining glass windows and covered with dust blood to keep out the rain, and say, are you chasing the cherry, the merry-go-round of the roses? If so, you must know that the downside is to sink like a ferry. A weapon is not worth a button when anti-world matters explode, and chandeliers drop from the ceiling with sharpshooter's skill. Exhausted collapse in a playground, a peak epileptic remains, and froth at the mouth like a river, till teachers in apple pie beds reach out chalk-filled hands and lift, and say, are you chasing the cherry? The singular red one on top. It gleams with particular pleasure that may never stop. If so, you must know that the high tide has sunk like a ferry. As I was telling you about the school magazine and my shameful rejection, I got over that, and I was first published with these poems, some of these, by the man who became the editor of this book, Blackbird Singing. His name was Adrian Mitchell. He'd been a good friend of mine for a long time. And at the time, he was poetry editor of the New Statesman. And so he wanted me to put some of these poems in, so I put this one in. It's called Trouble Is. Rabbit running in circles, chasing his tail because it looks like candy floss. Trouble is, rabbits don't eat candy floss. Black Labrador barking at the antics of his shadow on a wall. Trouble is, shadows don't fight back. A pair of gloves hanging from a back pocket argue about which hand will hold the rake. Trouble is, gloves don't give a shit. Thanks. Oh, this is fun. All right. When this book came out in England, obviously I got the few sniffy critics that I'm always going to get. They don't like me stepping out of my chosen field. But what the hell, I want to do it, so tough. And one of the problems they had was the inclusion of lyrics in this. And one of them started his critique by saying, strike your most poetic stance. Swell your chest, lift your head high, stiffen your backbone, and try and imagine reading these lyrics with a serious face. So I got a bit brought down by that. You know, this is what's. But my editor, Adrian, said, he said, you kidding? He said, you know, that kind of poetry went out with the Victorians. He said, he said, don't they remember the beat poets and Liverpool poets and all the various. So I was reassured by that, and so I'm going to dare to read a lyric now. The first line of this refers to the study of pataphysics, which I think was invented by Alfred Jarry, a French Dadaist. And it's not a real science. In fact, I think the Society of Pataphysicians, their most important position is the chair of beer. So he's got my vote. So here we go. This is called Maxwell's Silver Hammer. Joan was quizzical, studied pataphysical science in the home. Late nights, all alone with a test tube. Oh, 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 oh. Maxwell Edison, majoring in medicine, calls her on the phone. Can I take you out to the pictures, Joan? But as she's getting ready to go, a knock comes on the door. Bang, bang, Maxwell's silver hammer came down upon her head. Bang, bang, Maxwell's silver hammer made sure that she was dead. Back in school again, Maxwell plays the fool again. Teacher gets annoyed. Wishing to avoid an unpleasant scene, she tells Max to stay when the class has gone away. So he waits behind, writing 50 times, I must not be so, oh ho ho. But when she turns her back on the boy, he creeps up from behind. Bang, bang, Maxwell's silver hammer came down upon her head. Bang, bang, Maxwell's silver hammer made sure that she was dead. There's more. PC31 said, we've caught a dirty one. Maxwell stands alone, painting testimonial pictures, oh, ho, ho, ho. Rose and Valerie, screaming from the gallery. That could be a can of worms. We'll cut that, okay? All right, Rose and Valerie, screaming from the gallery, say he must go free. The judge does not agree, and he tells them so. oh ho ho. But as the words are leaving his lips, a noise comes from behind. Bang, bang, Maxwell's silver hammer came down upon his head. Bang, bang, Maxwell's silver hammer made sure that he was dead. Thank you. All right. Okay. This next poem was something that more serious, which was occasioned by the death of John here in New York. And I know, like everyone in the world, it was such a shock, such a terrible thing to happen. And after all the tears of that day, which I think took all of us probably at least a day to come to terms with it, I found this phrase going around in my head about the guy who'd done it, which was jerk of all jerks. So this is a poem on that subject called Jerks of All Jerks. I'm a motorist that quite likes a drink when he drives, causes the loss of innocent lives. I'm the guy with the pistol who kills your best friend. You can't really blame me because I'm round the bend. Hello, how are you? I'm jerk of all jerks. I'm here to undo all your charitable works. I do it quite simply by making mistakes. And one little boo-boo is all that it takes. And you're at the mercy of jerk of all jerks. I'm the man that disposes of nuclear waste. There's no need to worry, it's perfectly safe. In fact, there is now every reason to hope that if anything happens, I'll easily cope. Hello, how are you? I'm jerk of all jerks. I'm the leader who says, as he wages his war, that the children are not ones that he's aiming for. Hello, how are you? I'm jerk of all jerks. Again, with reference to John, who loved New York City so much, and it's good to be here in what was his second city, I think. And with this reading, to pay tribute to him. This next piece is a lyric, and John and I hadn't seen each other for a while. Thank God, before he died, we did make up, so I was really happy about that, because to have not done that would have been terrible for me. But after all our battles, we were making up, and I made up a song, an imaginary conversation with him. And it refers to crying. That was one night when we were on tour, and we'd got diverted from Jacksonville, where we were supposed to play, because of a hurricane. So we had to go down and spend a night in Key West. And so we didn't see much of it, but we kind of stayed up all night and drank and talked and did all crazy things. Ended up crying. It's called Here Today. And if I said I really knew you well, what would your answer be if you were here today? Well, knowing you, you'd probably laugh and say that we were worlds apart if you were here today. But as for me, I still remember how it was before, and I'm holding back the tears no more. I love you. What about the time we met? Well, I suppose that you could say that we were playing hard to get, didn't understand a thing, but we could always sing. What about the night we cried because there wasn't any reason left to keep it all inside? Never understood a word, but you were always there with a smile. And if I say I really loved you and was glad you came along, then you are here today, for you are in my song. My favorite New Yorker was, of course, Linda, who was born here. She was born here in Doctors Hospital, and so it became a very special city of ours for me through her. When she got ill, she was in hospital one time, and I would stay with her in a camp bed. And in the morning, I made it a habit to go for a run in Regent's Park. And this became a kind of ritual, a sort of prayer. This next poem is called City Park, and it's about that time. 27 press-ups at Black Park bench altar. 8 warm, even notes from tall church cool bell. High staccato twittering of small birds against throbbing pigeons. Oh, how do you do? Oh, how do you coo? World's long, low surfaced tickles to life with strangers. Sniffing collie couple, speed walking, high-armed, brisk little sergeant major woman, bouncing peak in tow. Moorhen flutters squawking across crowded city pond top. All sorts of ducks mill slowly round white swans, stately black swans, snow-tipped, nipple-red beaks. A crow cackles with thumb on black comb rasp. Winter bare rose bushes line asphalt path. Old yellow scotch, pink posy, pourtois, polar star, mood music, and yesterday, where silent gardeners dig. 18 press-ups facing my lover's home, grins to the sky, 9 nods this way, 9 nods that, and I pray to the Spirit of goodness to open page on a fine, fine day, forever and ever, and ever and ever. Thank you. When we lost Linda, obviously for our family it was a terrible tragedy, to say the least. But I think all of us felt that she was still there, and we would hear things and see things that somehow indicated that she was still around. And this next poem is about some of those things that happened. The wind chimes would move and ring, and there wasn't a wind. So all these strange little eerie things happened. I was taking a horse ride, which she'd introduced me to. She was a great rider. And I saw, for the second time in my life, I saw a white squirrel. You don't get many of these. And it was just looking at me. It was just staring me in the eye. And of course, I thought it was her. So this is called Her Spirit. Her spirit moves wind chimes when air is still and fills the rooms with fragrance of lily. Her eyes blue-green, still seen, perfectly happy with nothing. Her spirit sets the water pipes a-humming, fat electronic force be with you sound. Her spirit talks to me through animals. Beautiful creature, lay with me. Bird that calls my name insists that she is here and nothing left to fear. Bright white squirrel, foot of tree, fixes me with innocent gaze. Her spirit talks to me. However, I'm an optimist, and life goes on. So this next short poem is an effort to try and help get on with life. It's called Black Jacket. Sadness isn't sadness, it's happiness in a black jacket. Death isn't death, it's life that's jumped off a tall cliff. Tears are not tears, they're balls of laughter dipped in salt. Thank you. Okay. This next poem is it's kind of a true story. When we would go on tour, one of the great perks about going on tour is that you can have a massage every day. You wouldn't allow yourself that normally, but you're on tour, you're working hard, and you deserve a massage. So I should probably write a book called Massages of the World. Because some funny things have happened, I tell you. And I include some of them in, well, 3 of them in this poem. I was in Tokyo, I think it was, and a little lady came to the door. She said, "I'm your masseuse." I said, "Fine." So she asked me to lie down on the floor, and she started massaging me, and I'm closing my eyes, going into a nice daze, feeling great, getting relaxed. I suddenly realized she started singing, "Yesterday, all my troubles." No, stop it. I'm thinking, I hope she doesn't know the middle 8, but she didn't, luckily. I'm trying, oh my God. Then we got to, on this world tour, we got to Argentina. We were in Buenos Aires, and this lady who showed up, because you never know what you're going to get, She showed up, and what she wanted for me and my son, she did later, so we had some laughs about this later. What she wanted us to do was to lie down in the space between the 2 twin beds, and we had to make these sort of moaning noises. She'd say after me, "Ah." So we wanted a massage, we're going, And finally there was some big, large, fat guy in New Orleans who got really bizarre. I mean, all I was looking for was a nice, quiet massage, go to sleep and do the muscles, that's all I want. This guy, he was saying, "Imagine your leg is made of bronze. And it's hollow. And take a breath and we'll fill that leg." He said, okay. He said, "Imagine your neck is like a giraffe's neck." So he asked me about halfway through, he said, "How do you feel?" I said, "I feel like a giraffe with a hollow bronze leg." And he finally finished off, sat me up on the table, and he said, "Look into my eyes and try and burn a hole in my eyes." It's true. So this is called Masseuse Masseur. "Aso, Japanese masseuse, lie me on a towel and work me till I'm loose. Hold my hand and sing me yesterday. Lie, Argentinian masseuse, beside me on the floor and work me till I'm loose, making moaning noises. We'll play girls and boys. Is anyone at home? Oh, you New Orleans masseur, lie me on a table and work me till I'm loose. Imagine my leg as hollow bronze, my neck like a giraffe, and I will burn a hole in your eyes till someone comes to blow the candle out." Oh boy, it's true. Okay, I'm getting near the end now. Charlie will be glad to hear. He said, you got 20 minutes? I said, sure, more like 30. Anyway, this is a surprise for my friend and publisher at Norton, Bob Weil, who doesn't know this poem. He knows all the others in the book. This is one, Bob, that was written since the book was put together. So Bob hasn't heard this. I thought I'd just throw this in for you as a little surprise. It's called State of Grace. It's a heavenly day on the surface of earth, yet servants of evil still roam its face, searching crow's feet and crannies in which to give birth to the future. We praise the spirit of goodness from whence all good things flow. As when a fish, fresh plucked from watery home, flaps wildly on the deck, what spirit moves the hand that throws it back? In this world, where ever-present dangers circle round our family heart, like a throng of hostile strangers eager for a war to start, there appears a friend's familiar face. Oh, sweet relief, the heart goes to a warmer place. And this we prize, and this we hold so dear, this humble state of grace. Laughing at the sky, behold its sheer blue genius unfold, and we are blessed to see its golden hue, to be amongst its chosen few. We praise the well of goodness from whence all good things flow. Through the night, a daffodil is battered by the father of all storms. Daybreak sees it stand alone amidst a field of lifeless forms. Rays of light illuminate the space where sweet relief presents a shining yellow face. And this we prize, and this we hold so dear, this humble state of grace. Life aboard this fast revolver still remains a magic mystery. Loud reports of anger fill the pages of our history. Those of us with love can now embrace with sweet relief a life lived at a gentler pace. For this we prize, for this we hold so dear, this humble state of grace. Thank you. All right. So I say this is the second time in the whole universe that I've ever done this, and I thought one of the things you can do at a reading like this, rather like the Valerie screaming from the gallery before, we can get a little bit of audience participation. So are you up to that? Okay. We're going to finish with this. And before we get on to conversation with Charlie. So what I like to do is I'll do the first verse, and then I'd like you to join in quietly with the second verse, and then loudly, like a mad Russian poet, with the third verse. I think you'll get the idea as we go along. One of my more serious works. Why don't we do it in the road? Why don't we do it in the road? No one would. Hold it. Wait for your moment. Wait. I said I'd do the first one. No one will be watching us. Why don't we do it in the road? There you. Why don't we do it in the road? Why don't we do it in the road? No one will be watching us. Why don't we do it in the road? Why don't we do it in the road? Why don't we do it in the road? No one will be watching us. Why don't we do it in the road? Thank you. Thank you very much.